What's up, motherfuckers? I'm Adam and I love horror movies. So today I'm going to be doing the horror tag, which is basically a set of 10 questions pertaining to my personal taste in horror films. Question number 1 is, what is the first horror movie you remember watching? The first horror film I ever saw was John Carpenter's Halloween. I was probably only 8 or 9 years old at the time. I was over at a friend's house and we were looking for a movie to watch. He pulled out Halloween on DVD. I'd never seen a horror movie before, and it blew my fucking mind. From that day forward, I was converted to a hardcore horror fan, and I've never looked back. That experience of seeing Halloween for the first time didn't just make me appreciate horror films, but it also later got me into filmmaking in general, and is honestly the reason I'm sitting here today talking to you. Question number 2. What is your favorite horror movie? I can never actually quite decide if my favourite horror film is Halloween or the original Evil Dead. Since I've already talked about Halloween, let's say Evil Dead. The first Evil Dead really surprised me when I first watched it, because the Evil Dead series has a reputation as being this really absurd horror comedy series, and the first film caught me off guard with how actually scary it was. A lot of people tend to forget just how effective it is as a horror movie. And while a lot of people prefer the sequels, and I certainly enjoy them myself, I always find myself coming back to the original more than any of the other ones. Question number 3. What's your favourite horror franchise? Friday the 13th. The reason I love Friday so much is that, despite it being a series of 12 films, I find entertainment value in all of them. Like, I could watch any Friday movie and enjoy myself. Even the ones that I don't think are good, I still have a good time with. And for a series that is 12 films long, I think that's pretty impressive. Question number 4. What is your favourite horror movie genre? If you couldn't guess by now, it's the slasher movie. I know they're schlock, I can't defend them as high art, but I don't care. I have more fun with that genre than I do any other genre of horror. Some days I just want to see attractive teenagers being violently dismembered by a crazed masked killer. Is that really that bad? Well, I suppose it is when you say it out loud, so let's just move on. Question number 5. What genre scares you the most? I gotta go with found footage on this one, because I've always been a fan of when a film is able to blur the line between fiction and reality. Much like slashers, I'm well aware that a lot of found footage movies are really quite bad. It is a hit or miss subgenre, but I think that when it hits, it really hits. And some of the most intense experiences I've ever had watching a horror film has been while watching a found footage movie. Question number 6. Who is your ultimate scream queen? Jamie Lee Curtis, Danielle Harris, and then Juliette Cummins, in that order. And yeah, I know it kind of really only asked for one, but fuck you, it's my video. I picked 3. I love all 3 of these ladies for different reasons. Jamie Lee Curtis, of course, set the template for what a final girl should be in a slasher film with her role as Laurie Strode in Halloween. Danielle Harris started out her career in horror movies when she was just a kid and continued to contribute to the genre well into adulthood. And Juliette Cummins has been in some of the most interesting and out there slasher films to come out of the 1980s. She's also naked in like all of them, so that helps. Question number 7. What's a concept you'd like to see more of in horror? Kung Fu? I got one buddy who will really appreciate that sentiment and one buddy who really won't. But fuck it, yeah, I'd like to see more martial arts and action in horror films. I think that could be a lot of fun. Question number 8. What is your favourite on-screen kill? I hate to be predictable and go back to Friday the 13th, but I gotta go back to Friday the 13th. My favourite on-screen kill from a horror movie is actually from Jason Goes to Hell, what I think is one of the most underrated entries in the Friday the 13th series. And anyone who's seen the movie can probably guess what my favourite kill from that movie is, since it's most people's favourite kill in that particular movie. It is the tent impalement and then bisection of Michelle Clooney. She's right on top of her boyfriend, getting her jollies, and then suddenly a massive metal pole impales her from behind, which in most movies would be enough, but not in this one. Jason proceeds to rip the pole upwards, completely splitting her in half. It's a standout sequence, and even people who don't like that movie do seem to agree that that kill is pretty cool. Question number 9. Who's your favourite horror director? Not just my favourite horror director, but my favourite filmmaker of all time is John Carpenter. Yes, that was also probably very predictable considering my deep love of Halloween. But he didn't just make Halloween the movie that got me into horror films. He also made The Thing, Escape from New York, They Live, The Fog, as well as my all-time favourite non-horror film, Big Trouble in Little China.
What the hell?
However, an honourable mention must go to my second favourite director of all time, Sam Raimi, director of The Evil Dead, and the Spider-Man trilogy, which still hold up today. Seriously, if you haven't seen Spider-Man in a while, go check it out again. It's really good. And finally, number 10. What is the last horror movie you watched that actually scared you? I'm going to give 2 answers for this. 2 movies that I saw relatively recently that really had an effect on me. The first is the 2014 found footage horror film Creep. Without spoiling anything, I was so absorbed into what was happening in Creep that there was a moment where things kind of hit the fan, and I was sitting in an empty room and I went, oh shit. I said that out loud, which is something that very, very rarely happens when I'm actually watching a film by myself. The other movie I want to mention is Black Christmas, the original one from 1974. I watched this movie in the perfect setting. It was a cold winter's night, not far off from Christmas itself. The wind was blowing outside, it was dark, everyone else had gone to bed, and I sat alone at like 1 a.m. and I watched Black Christmas for the first time. You just can't beat atmosphere like that. Also, the movie is really good, it's really effective in and of itself, but all that other shit compounding it made it a fantastic experience and the perfect way to view a film like that. So those were my 10 answers to the 10 questions of the horror tag. I hope you found it interesting and not too boring or self-indulgent. Until next time, this is Adam saying keep on loving horror movies.